So Seb, let's do this. So first of all, thank you for sitting with me. It's actually pretty nice to finally meet you in person. Could you give me a little overview of your career?
Yeah. I've started like I think 10 years ago, and been looking around. In Poland, we don't have such a crazy industry, and I was mostly interested in cartoon stuff. So I left very quickly to UK, and then I've worked on a few AAA titles like Kinectimals or Disney Adventure, stuff like that for Microsoft. But finally, I got a nice offer from Platige Image in Poland. They do cinematics, and so I accepted. And I really, I've been enjoying this work so much. There have been like some Witcher cinematics, Reason, Skyfall, stuff like that. Some cartoon for Arabic people too, and was really cool. I've enjoyed that. But finally, I got this, feeling that I have to go back to games, and I get a good offer from CD Projekt. So that's
Nice.
a long story short, but I'm really enjoying the working there because they really think about characters and about bio and story, and the project is I think there's more about the story than gameplay. I know the gameplay is a king, but there because of RPG, the gameplay is a queen, but
Yeah.
but the story is a king.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. And what is your role at that studio right now?
Right now I'm a lead animator there, but mostly responsible for keeping the consistency in gameplay and cinematics and dialogues. So I'm making sure that everything's working well. And yeah, I'm enjoying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. We have like around 20 animators altogether with cinematic designers. And so, in cinematic department, I mostly give animation feedback because we have our own cinematic director who's responsible for the storytelling and stuff like that.
Cool. And do you still get to animate a little, or you're just managing the team right now?
Right now, more I'm managing the team, and when I want to really animate, I do personal stuff, of course, after hours when I put my baby to sleep. But yeah, I think I can find like 1 hour at least in the morning that I can prototype to sell the idea to the director, for example. It's of course much easier to visualize by a simple spline pass cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you see the golden poses, and with a good nail timing, you don't have to polish it, but the idea is there. So that's the way I have to. Sometimes I try to sell the idea, because of course in the gameplay we base on the design doc and on the story, but sometimes it's not enough. When you get a crazy character, you have to just experiment,
Yeah.
and that's the moments when I animate mostly.
Cool. What's interesting with gameplay is that you really create the poses and really put an emphasis on flow, but you don't get to polish as much. While in the cinematics,
Yeah,
polishing time is really important,
Yeah.
especially if you're using mocap. It's basically
Yeah.
only polish.
yeah.
How do you adapt to both styles?
I love those two workflows, really, because I did a lot of cinematics, so I'm crazy about polishing stuff. But in gameplay, it's more about the feeling, and it's the more important thing is that how you feel the character on path. Sometimes you think that there's no much anticipation, but you don't need it, because responsiveness is more important.
Yeah.
So this is this is amazing, and there's no just one golden solution for that. It's like in my opinion that it all depends on the volume of the character itself, how he should move, and you ask a lot of questions in my opinion, during the gameplay thing. And there's a lot of prototyping in my opinion, yeah, because you have to prototype. I truly believe that you have to prototype the stuff at least 3-4 times to choose the best solution, So if you have time, prototype. That's
Yeah.
why we often, using mockup, just for prototyping. In some cases, Of course, when you have a humanoid, realistic character with solid proportions, you can do it. But still, you exaggerate stuff a lot. So this is completely in Motion Builder, let's say, or in Maya. In the end, very often the animation is not that pretty, because sometimes it's faster that you would do, for your demo reel. but in game it works. That's some really crazy stuff, and it gets from experience. Yeah.
It's finding the balance.
Yeah, it's finding the balance, totally.
And what's your approach toward motion capture? I know you've worked on it quite a lot.
Yeah, I've worked a lot on motion capture, but truly, man, I used to hate it. Yeah, at the very beginning, I was scared. I was scared of motion capture. So, but finally, you know, I got another job, and I had to try, and I found out that it's not that easy, to be honest. It's not the digital makeup, you know.
Yeah.
So it's completely different world, and it takes different approach, and you have to think completely differently about that, you know, art form, and you have to develop another skills. So, you know, my opinion is very important to direct the actor firstly very well. You have to have this kind of animation eye that you finding the texture in animation. So you sometimes you tell the actor, okay, hold here, or, you know, can you do it faster? Can you do it, you know, squash here, or, you know, can you exaggerate this pose? I know it's not unnatural, but can you please exaggerate this pose? Yeah, but it's gonna be off balance. Yeah, but we'll nail it. Don't worry. Yeah. So I'm starting from directing the actor. That's, in my opinion, most important thing, because this is the base. This is the foundation. Yeah. And then I'm looking, you know, on the first pass, I'm always making sure that center of gravity is there. So in most cases, center of gravity is in the hips, of course, but some, you know, unrealistic characters with a huge arms, huge chest, they have COG here, yeah. Mm-hmm. So all those guys who skip the leg day, yeah, on the gym, they have very often the COG in the chest. Yeah. So you have to remember that the COG is always there to keep the footage, you know, believable, and then I'm going always from the maximum to minimum, yeah. So I'm making sure that the chess is, and of course, in my opinion, the motion capture cleaning thing, it's easy to destroy. You can easily destroy the footage, just because people tend to over animate stuff, yeah, because of arcs, blah blah blah, and stuff like that. So you have to look for dirt. You have to break arcs very often. You have to smear, you have to double the frame sometimes, you know, because the realistic animation is not that clean, and people very often forgets about that, and it looks then, yeah, like it's too clean, over animated, and sometimes even too cartoony. I mostly, you know, sometimes when I'm not sure about footage, I create a simple sphere, you know, I constrain it to the hips of the character, and layer on top, I'm experimenting with timing, with the sphere. Sometimes I, you know, moving it faster, some slower, moving, you know, doing more overshoot on the sphere. It's like 10 minutes pass, really 10 minutes pass. But it gives you the answers very quickly, because, you know, of course, it's all about timing and spacing. Yeah, it's a cliche, but it really is. It's first, if you have a good timing, and then you will nail the solid, the golden poses there. That's most important, in my opinion, because especially in gameplay, because when you fight, for example, yeah, in a combat, you are in the combat, the thing what you see, it's the golden poses, to be honest, and timing. Sometimes character slides left to right, but you won't notice that there's not moving hold. Sometimes it's a stiff pose. Yeah. But this stiff pose sometimes is better than moving hold.
It needs to read.
Yeah, it needs to read. Yeah, and you notice, you know, you see the character from far away there, but when you see that there's a very solid pose with a huge shoulders, you can realize, okay, this is this character. I'm scared, you know. Or if you see the guy who's hunched back, okay, you can realize that, okay, this is this kind of zombie, let's say, because we read poses, and yeah.
Nice. You were saying that everybody has his own style, everybody has his own workflow. Now, as a lead, how do you manage all the talents to make sure that the final result fit with the vision and the style established for the game and the cinematic?
Yeah, you know, in CD Projekt, we have kind of realistic stuff, yeah? But still, you are in this medieval fantasy world. So you have creatures, so you don't use mock-up. But still, the timings must to look realistic, and the feeling must be realistic. So in my opinion, this is the most difficult stuff, to keep the consistency between the humanoid Geralt who fights with a creature.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we can't exaggerate poses so much because it looks cartoony. But, you know, in my opinion, it's not so hard because our seniors, let's say we get a new creature, and you as a senior, you are responsible for this creature. You have ownership, and you do this creature from the very beginning to the final end. So any bug you get, you fix it. Any gameplay issue, you fix it. And you create this kind of pose library, then cinematics uses. So, in my opinion, that's the good approach, because if animator feels that the ownership he really cares about, and we really care about design doc, we really care about story, we really care about the prototype phase. We think about that, and then we are nailing golden poses of the character, the appeal poses, and we stick with that. So if director likes this, we know that we are good. We can move forward.
Nice.
Yeah.
So really work hard in the beginning to make sure that project goes smoothly.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly. I truly believe that planning is so important, and it's not the cliche that people sometimes saying that do not skip this step. Yeah, do not skip. Sometimes when you skip because you think I feel so comfortable with this character, I did all of them, like those proportions are easy. No, you do not skip planning phase. You have to plan it well, ask questions, as many as possible before the real production, and it will pay off. It will just always pay off. If you skip the planning, sometimes you have to move and back a few steps.
Yeah. And what advice would you give your younger self with the knowledge that you have right now?
Okay, that's a good question. I would definitely tell myself that if someone is telling you that it's overacted, it really is overacted. You know what I mean? It's people tend at the beginning overact a lot.
Yeah.
Do stuff like that, and really the rule, keep it simple. It is the truth. Experiment and find the simplest working solution, because if someone there, as a recruiter, lead, anyone, your mommy, is watching your animation, in most cases they will watch once, and it must be as a punch in the face. It's like, poof, it works or not. That's it. So in my opinion, just keep it simple rule and just do not overact. That's the, because that's the main idea. Probably I would tell myself, because I think I lost a lot of time doing few animations, because I couldn't believe that rule.
Nice. And why did you choose the field of animation?
Maybe because I like to move a lot, so maybe not now, yeah. but yeah, I used to train a lot martial arts and stuff like that, and I don't like to just stuck on one thing. Like I couldn't sculpt, for example. I totally I love the art form, but to me it looks just boring. Yeah. So yeah, animation, it's moving things and it's always different. There's no just one approach you can fit to any animation. That's why I love animation.
Yeah. And do you think your experience in martial arts has helped you understand body mechanics?
Oh yeah, a lot.
Is it something that you would suggest to students who want to work in video games?
Totally. I truly believe it helps a lot, and because from my experience, there are some guys, like some really good animators, and talking to them after hour or two, when you talk, you just get the info from them that we used to train martial arts too, like that's why this, or I used to dance a lot, and it helps because it's muscle memory. It's something that you understand why hips are moving here or why shoulder is moving when you just drink a coffee or anything. People think about body more. and in my opinion, it helps. So people should, I think, train. Animators should move.
Yeah. And throughout your career, you must have quite a lot of highs and lows. What was
Yeah.
your greatest victory, the moment that you were the most proud of?
I think that's a difficult question. The first, I think, that I survived this first 3 months on Kinectimals, to be honest, with this pressure like 50 polished frames per day. That was quite difficult. But I think the biggest success was the Killing Monsters cinematic, the sequence when Geralt is killing those guys around him, because that was the time limitation was quite huge, and I was just by myself on that. So yeah.
And your greatest obstacle, and how did you overcome it?
I think the beginning of CD Projekt, because I came into a huge company and I had to work on pipeline so much and had to convey people that it's gonna work better.
Yeah.
That was the biggest. Yeah, I didn't sleep much then.
I'm guessing now everything is all good.
It's perfect.
What do you do to remain creative? What keeps you motivated?
Yeah, man, this is a nice question. I think I had some downs about motivation and being, inspired by anything. Like, sometimes I've been struggling, but since I'm at CD Projekt Red and there is a good approach about character, when they really think deeply about character, when I have some problems with it, I can go to story department, ask them questions, why this character behaves like that, and this is just amazing, As much as you think about character, the better. And I really love to think about them, that they are alive, that they're not just puppets, and I'm not a puppeteer. I'm trying to make them alive, trying to think, this character sits that way because of this and this, this character reply to another person that way because he's angry in this moment or he's happy, and I love it. That's when you in this kind of approach you can get this really believable characters, and you can really feel that they have feelings, and I love it. That's why I right now I don't have problems with motivation.
It forces you to avoid any generic animation and posing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much to talk with me,
Thank you,
mate.
man.
It
Thank
was
you,
really
really.
nice.
It was honor, man. Thank you.